Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Shulchan Aruch Yomi, the one, the only shir of its kind in the world. We'll be starting Siman Ted Zayin, number 16, today in Orach Chaim. This is one of the advantages of joining the cycle. Sometimes you get a Siman with only one sif, only one halacha. We are privileged to only have one halacha today. That means that'll be quicker, and I don't know what else it means. I mean, it's a good thing. One halacha, do a whole siman in one halacha. It's pretty good, but there's a lot to talk about in this halacha. And the Ian Shir is revolutionary, if I must say so myself. We're going to figure out what exactly the Torah meant when it talks about tzitzis. There's actually two things, two garments the Torah is talking about specifically. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's start here with the regular part of the Shir. Sif Aleph Shir Talish Chayiv Tzitzis Shir Kasaba. How big does your beged have to be, right? If you go to the store, the tzitzis store, you want to buy a pair of tzitzis, there's different sizes. What's the minimum share? You don't know. You're confused. They're telling you want to buy tzitzis that a kid wears. I don't know. Some people like buying the really big tzitzis, like, that like covers like their whole body and like sticking out of the bottom of their pants. I see them like that. And some people want to get the smallest pair possible. What's the share? What's the minimum share? Shir Taj Chayiv is just kasaba Orach Aruch Rosh Rubo Shal Katan. The shir is measured according to the Shulchan Aruch based on a minor, a katan, a talis, a beged, a piece of cloth that's big enough that the katan can cover most of his body and his head. He's covering, if it's big enough to cover most of his body and his head. So, and we're talking about a katan who's 9 years old. The Mishnah Berurah says that he has no problem walking outside by himself. He doesn't need someone else to accompany him. So that would be the shear, regardless of what a gadol does. The Ramah does it in Hagav as Chaim v'dafka. He says he adds in the Ramah, which is we're going to talk about the Gemara in a second, and with the source of this halacha. V'dafka shagadol losho pa'amim va'arav yotzebol l'shuk. Not only is it good enough, according to the Ramah, that a katan would wear this, it would cover most of his body. It also has to be something that a gadol, meaning someone who's a 13 or above, or anyone who's an adult, would feel comfortable, according to the Ramah, going out to the shuk, going outside, even to the shuk, to the marketplace. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes, if he has nothing else to do, the Shas HaChach, so he'll go out to the shuk with it. He's not going to be embarrassed to go out. Alright, to go out all the time would be embarrassing. That's not one of the part of the Geda, that's not part of the discussion. So, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's only dependent on one thing. According to the Ramah, you really need both qualifications. Before I get to the Gemara, I just want to say what the Poskim Achron and the Mishnah Berurah says the shear is. First of all, they do talk about a case where, let's say, a katan would not go out for some reason, would not cover Rosh Haru, wouldn't cover most of the body and the head of a katan, but for some reason, this type of beged, that a gadol would go out, even bekeva, to the shuk. He would no problem going out to the keva shuk. Is that chayiv? Is this or not? It's machlokes here. The Bach, the Mishnah Berurah, seems to say that you're chayiv. And the Dirsha, they bring the Chazanish, vehemently argues on the Bach. It has to be something, that's the main criteria. The main criteria in the Gemara is the katan is yotzei bo l'shuk, yotzei bo is miskasa rosh of arubo, nothing to do with the gadol. Chazanish says it wouldn't be chayiv and tzitzis. What is a shear? How big is it? Is there a standard measurement? Yeah, the Mishnah Berurah does bring a standard measurement. He says at least it has to be wide, half amma. Now an amma, let's say, I think the generally accepted opinion is about 1.5 feet. So therefore, if it's 3/4 of a foot, would be 9 inches, let's say. 9 inches wide, meaning wide would be from here to here. And long, meaning from top to bottom, so it has to be 3/4 of an amma here in the front and 3/4 amma in the back. and that would be an amma and a half, um, which would 3/4 of an amma would be, let's say, if we're measuring an amma to be 1.5 feet, so 3/4 of an amma would be a little more than a foot, both the front and a little more than a foot in the back. The Mishnah Berurah does bring to be, let's say, all the shitas, you should get really an amma long in the front, 1.5 feet in the front, and 1.5 feet in the back, 3.5 feet, and does not include the opening in the circle. That's not included. It's only where the beged is. Now, there are people who have, like me personally, I wear V-neck tzitzis. V-neck tzitzis. That is another shaila, further shaila, whether the V-neck is viewed as closed or open, or do you measure from the top of the V-neck or the bottom of the V-neck? That is another shaila. But I would say that if from the bottom of the V-neck you have 3/4 of an amma down, of course in the back you can have more than 3/4 of an amma, that would for sure be good. If you have less, then it's a shaila. Maybe ask a rabbi, but that's the minimum shear. If you go to America, they generally 18 shear 18. You said there's 3/4 of an amma running from top to bottom, both in the front and the back. 18 and 24 would be the size where you have an amma. You'll say all the shitas. I think in Israel here, the size 6 is the shear. I think is the 24. In America, maybe the 5. I don't know exactly. That's basically what you have over here. Lamaisa, that's the end of the day what the halacha is, because they measure that's generally the standard, what would cover a 9-year-old kid. 9-year-old kid, like the average 9-year-old kid, they said if it's a half an amma wide and 3/4 of an amma tall on both the front and the back, then it would cover most of the body of a katan. And also a gadol would not be embarrassed to go at the shuk sometimes with it. The source of this halacha, we're going to get into it briefly right now, and then Ian and Ben Sir, we're going to get into it much deeper. And they'll give a new explanation of the Gemara. First of all, I'm just going to ask one question nowadays, like, what type of beged are we talking about? What type of garment are we talking about over here that a katan and a gadol wear it? Meaning a 9-year-old kid's wearing it and a 35-year-old person's wearing it also. What are you talking about? Like a sweater? The katan, it covers most of the body. I don't know, it's a bit sweatshirt, right? It's a hoodie. It covers the head and it covers most of the body of the katan. And this gadol is gonna wear it arai. Sometimes I go out to the shuk with the hoodie of a 9-year-old. It's not gonna fit him. I doubt there's too many people gonna fit his hoodie. Yeah, but what the heck are we talking? I shouldn't say what the heck. What are we talking about? I just want to quote the source of this halacha. It's Gemara on Mem Amud Beis going to Mem Aleph, the last line of Mem Amud Beis. Tanya talis kata shakata miskasebo. My talis p'tura. Ilim v'delis b'shiur. Rabbi Tanya talis shakata miskasebo. Shrubu v'gadol yozebo derech harai chayiv b'sitzis. Right. It says the shir chayiv b'sitzis. Basically, what the Shulchan Aruch says. You need both things. Ein kata miskasebo shrubu af b'shagadol yozebo harai p'tura. So this is basically the Shulchan Aruch. Sounds like the Shulchan Aruch. That the ikar is what the katan does. That if the katan doesn't use it to cover most of his body, even if the gadol go out arai, it wouldn't make a difference. The ikar, like the Shulchan Aruch says, is the katan using it. The Ramah says, the Gemara is saying basically that you need both. You need the katan. Just saying that if the gadol is yotze ba'arai and you don't have the katan, then it's worth nothing. But you need both. You need the katan. That's machlokes in the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. You need both. Usually be the same thing. So this is the source of the halacha. This is the Gemara Menachos. Rashi translates Yotzeba derech harai she'eno bo shlat his ba l'shuk. It doesn't say l'shuk in the Gemara. Yotzeba derech harai. It means that he goes out somewhere, and Rashi says l'shuk. He's not misbayish. The Shita Megabet says not misbayish. Sorry, let's harai l'shuk. Rashi's, I think the poskim say somewhere that it's because of embarrassment. The poskim say that's because of embarrassment. You wouldn't go out to the shuk normally, but to go out once in a while, you wouldn't be embarrassed about it. That's the source of this halacha. I told you what Rashi says, and if you want us to hear a nupshat in this Gemara and really hear basically the sod of the mitzvah of tzitzis, and also why we say why is included in Kriya Shema a whole paragraph about tzitzis mentioned Sefer Parsha Shlach, Sefer Bamidbar. Again, I mentioned there's two parts. There's two times since it's mentioned in the Torah. One when it comes to Kilayim in Parshas Kiseitze and Dvarim. And then also we know the famous time in Kriya Shema, in the Kriya Shema, last paragraph in Kriya Shema, which is from Bamidbar Ted Vav in Shlach, where we talk about mitzvahs. It's just, what are we talking about over here? What kind of beged are we talking about? A hoodie, obviously not. You're not going to miss it. Stay tuned for Ian Ben Sion coming up right now.